We're live. Yes. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to season 5. Yes, we've been doing this for 5 straight years of the weekly. And this is the first episode of the year. And thank you for joining us yet again. As of course, we have our usual host of characters, and some things don't change. Sam is late. Starting off, of course, is Mr. Juan Bagnell, all the way from California. How's it going, man?
Hey, going pretty well, man. Got my coffee. I think I am ready to talk about some stuff.
Cool. And next up is Mr. Warren Bowman, all the way from the frozen tundra of Boston.
It's actually been warm this week, surprisingly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, thumbs up. Let's do this.
And our guest this week is Mr. SuperSaf, all the way from Leicester, the only team to win football. You know, I mean, you were lucky, man. I'm not even gonna go there. You guys were just lucky. How's it going, man?
Hey, we won, man. We won. That's the main thing. I'm good, man. I'm recovering, but yeah, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Thanks for joining us on the show. We have a few things to talk about, but of course, as usual, let us kick it off with our uselessness for the week. Now, since this is the 3rd week in January, there've been 2 major uselessnesses that we've had.
2 major? There's only 2 major.
Well, the other ones, but these are the 2 big ones I think we could talk about. One is from Intel, and we know that quite well because that's happened like the 2nd or 3rd day of the year. And the second one is OnePlus. But Intel's big snafu is the fact that, you know, they found out that there was a bug, you could say, within the chipsets that has been around forever. It's not something that happened with one generation of chipsets. It's been something that's been lingering for the last, I don't know how many years, Warren, maybe 7 years or so?
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. It's been around for a significant amount of time. It affects, like, I think all the way back to maybe even the 4th gen processors, apparently.
Yeah, and this was brought to the attention, I think, by Google, if I'm not mistaken, sometime last year. And within that same period, the Intel CEO also sold a lot of stock before we knew or addressed any of these issues. I just want to get your thoughts on this quickly. So, Juan, I'll start off with you. What do you think about this Meltdown and Spectre bug that is destroying? Right now, I'm using the AMD PC because I can't deal with this. I'm just joking. I just had to switch anyway.
Well, I mean, it's important to kind of clarify too. I mean, there's been a lot of chatter about it, and it's worth rehashing. These types of exploits. Meltdown was the big, scary, bad exploit, where basically any kind of command level or user level program could access protected elements of your chipset. Especially getting into kernel storage. So that's bad. The patches have largely been pushed out. It's maybe completely psychosomatic, but my system does seem to handle like video editing poorer than before the patch went out. So that's completely anecdotal. I don't know if I'm really seeing deficit.
No, there's definitely some performance woes that have been happening across my own new AMD system, and even when I've edited off of my Intel laptop, and we've noticed some of the other PCs as well too. There's definitely a performance hit from this from this patch, which they said there was going to be.
They said there was going to be, but again, a lot of people were trying to downplay the major issues. Are when you're doing specific kinds of calls. This was going to really be an impact on cloud storage, server side, virtual machines, things like that. But even in just sort of daily desktop computing, like I'm seeing a little bit of a hit. Like everything about my system feels a little slower and a little more sluggish than it used to. Spectre is the less pressure, less aggressive, but also there's something just as insidious or just as scary about a hardware flaw. We've been taking a certain aspect of processor security for granted for so long that now we've actually run into an issue where every single CPU designed, I believe, since the Pentium 3 has some kind of access or flaw that Spectre could be a problem with. Now, we don't know of any exploits. I don't believe there have been any significant exploits, but that doesn't mean that a bad actor might not develop some kind of exploit in the future. So we're all just kind of waiting for hardware refreshes, and it's unlikely that the next processor or two coming out of major manufacturers will be free of this, because CPU design takes a long time. Those products are usually years in the pipeline. So I think really the big uselessness was actually the way that Intel handled the disclosure on this. Was it the Register broke the news and it had an incomplete story, and then Intel replied with, well, everyone has problems. And you're like,
yes,
true, but only your CPUs have this meltdown bug, which is going to wreck performance for server farms. And so now, up to the tune of 30% in some applications, all of that's going to go and hit your cloud storage, your backbone services, AWS, Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. They're all patched up. Hopefully they're all secure, because it could have been a situation where people could have jumped into other people's cloud accounts with the right kind of exploit. But yeah, it was not a good look for Intel wrapping this problem up.
Yeah. That's very true. I actually still want to talk about the way the CEO reacted, in terms of at least what he did in terms of selling stock, and he looked a little fishy. To me, I thought that was just super fishy. I thought that was, you knowing that you had an issue and you're trying to cash out as soon as possible. It's like riding that Bitcoin high and just saying, look, I'm gonna just take as much out of here as possible. So, Sam, can you hear me? You're muted, Sam, by the way. Maybe he's not there. I wanted to get your thoughts on this since you're finally here.
I know my camera's giving me a little issue. Basically, he committed, I don't want to say he committed a crime, but it looks very similar to a crime what he did.
It's like insider trading, man.
Yeah, no, he used insider knowledge to basically make decisions before it hit the market. He knew that he was going to be adversely impacted by this news, and then he went ahead and he made the decision to sell. Now, what's really suspicious about this is Intel will come out and they'll tell you, oh, it was scheduled. This is a scheduled thing. This is something that happens normally. He does this every year, but he does this on a very small percentage of the shares he normally holds. This time around, I think he multiplied that 10 times. So whereas he was maybe selling 2% of his shares every year, just to, someone, he has to make a living, millionaires just can't live like that. But this time he's selling like 20% of his shares, which really to me indicates that he understood exactly what the impact of this was going to be on the share price. And he went ahead and made the decision to sell before the share price took a hit. So I would be very surprised if he doesn't get charged with something.
No. See, he's the rich CEO of a major corporation. Everything he does is fine. Now, I mean, if Martha Stewart had done something like this, because she's not in the tech industry, she'd be in an orange jumpsuit yesterday.
Yeah. Saf, what do you think about it as a whole, just in general? Like, what was your thought process about it?
Yeah, I agree with the other guys. It's really, especially what he did, like, it's really sneaky. So, well, let's see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the other guys, and I'm gonna have to go get my battery charger in just a second.
Okay.
You can excuse me for just 1 minute. I'm gonna just pop out and come back because I just realized my XPS 15 is dying.
You really don't. Hang on.
I didn't realize how much battery drained. It's like I've been on here for 10 minutes and it's already gone down by 10%. What's going on?
It's Meltdown, man. Meltdown is happening right now on his PC.
I'll be back in a minute.
All right. Warren, how about you before we move to the next topic?
Yeah, the way they rolled this, they were going to version roll this out. They weren't going to tell anybody anything. They were going to roll this out in a typical Windows and software update that wasn't going to really highlight much. It'll probably just say it exploits this, and it's they would flag it as a required update and make sure that everyone patches to it, and then no one would know the wiser. But probably what happened is that they found out that the information leaked. The press was going to leak the information out. The CEO got that information and decided, I better try to sell some of this off to try to not lose as much money as we're going to lose, because when this news gets out there. Beyond that, I agree with what everyone else is sort of saying about it. And it's just unfortunate because it really does affect probably 90 to 95% of servers that are out there that run a lot of the systems that we run today. And it requires I think it requires a reboot to patch this thing as well too, so which disturbs quite a bit of things as well. You have to, and it's not just that it affects the cloud storage; it affects a lot of businesses in the way that they now, if let's say they're hosting with whatever the hosting company now has to figure out the best strategy. You have to explain to them what's going on, because the way Intel kind of put this out there, it really wasn't clear. They were trying to kind of hide it, then kind of say, well, everybody has a problem, try to throw AMD under the bus, to kind of go along with them. And AMD's like, nah, fam, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Like, that's all you, bro.
The bad look for Intel was like them trying to roll out the patch, which Meltdown is an Intel specific bug, but they tried to roll out the patch because if you change the fix for Meltdown, if you fix for Meltdown and you apply that fix to an AMD computer, it's also going to slow down an AMD computer. And it was the Linux dev community that actually figured it out. I mean, it's just an if then else statement, you know? So the fix is called Kaiser, and you just put in one line of code. If CPU equals Intel, then Kaiser, else no Kaiser. And AMD computers were running fine after they added that extra piece of code. But it was like Intel putting pressure on like Microsoft. No, just roll out the patch for everybody. Make sure everybody has Kaiser, not just us. Yeah, everybody's affected by this. And you're like, again, that's a bad look.
That's Microsoft covers just CYA in themselves. And they were probably told by Intel, because Intel's the one that's going to probably develop or whatever the patch, and said, hey, you should put this out to everyone just in case everyone's affected with it. And Microsoft's going to go, well, Windows 10 ain't taking no L's anytime soon with this. We're going to put our thing. We'll just slow everyone down. And then when we find out what the problem is, we'll just go back and blame Intel later. That's if they even do. They're so in bed with Intel anyways. They might just not say anything and just kind of let it roll. But
yeah, that's very true. I mean, you know, hopefully it gets sorted out properly, but this was a bad snafu from Intel. Moving on to our second one, just because I want to move things a little bit faster, is OnePlus admitted that some user credit cards were compromised. This was between the period of mid-November to January 11th. Up to 40,000 users may have been affected. And OnePlus announced this on the 19th, roughly. They had finished the investigation. And even though we had heard about this breach earlier, they didn't really see anything until they dropped the official statement here, which basically says, I'm just going to briefly summarize it. The link for that is in the description here. We're deeply sorry to inform you that the following an attack on our systems, our credit card data, may have been compromised, and this data includes your credit card number, expiration date, security code that you've entered at oneplus.net. As soon as when we were made aware of these attacks, we launched an urgent investigation. We suspended credit card payments, and we've been working with cyber firms to enforce it. I mean, why didn't you tell people when it happened? This is what I don't like. This is me personally. I mean, until you finished your investigation, you actually state this. I mean, what do you guys think?
It's OnePlus. It's what they do. I mean, there's no one getting around it. I'm like the only one. I feel like I'm the only one here that bashes them without really caring.
I think that's a little bit of a almost like a slap in the wrist.
It's an L.
Yeah, no, it's not just an L. It's an L for the industry in general, because it's not just OnePlus. It's the whole industry in general, right? When things like this happen, we just finished a story where someone knew about a breach and then, or basically an issue, and then wait until they can benefit from it somehow before they release before the real news comes out. People wait and they don't put their customers first. You can't be a company and not put your customers first. It's rife in the whole industry right now, where we've seen Sony had the same thing when they got breached. Target had the same thing when they got breached. All these companies wait for X amount of days after it is possible. Equifax, how am I even forgetting those idiots, had the same thing. People wait and they let the consumer catch the L before they go out and actually say, oh, guess what? You might be compromised. So they're putting the onus of securing our financial data, which we put on their systems, on the systems of our bank. They're putting the onus of protecting that on ourselves, which kind of breaks some kind of trust. And I think OnePlus shouldn't get a pass on this. No company that does this going forward after 2017, after the Equifax debacle, should get a pass on this. They should all basically get raked over the coals for this one. And hopefully OnePlus does.
Saf, what do you think?
Oh,
you're mute. Yeah, sorry.
Wait, am I off now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think what the other guys are saying as well, that they take so long, but it's PR, isn't it? It's damage prevention. So they'll be looking at as much as they can to prevent bad PR, right? So that's what they'll be doing behind the scenes. Okay, we've messed up. Before we can release anything, let's try to do as much damage prevention as possible. And I think not only OnePlus, but pretty much every other company that it's happened to follows the same sort of method.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but it's just one of those things where I wish we get this information sooner, because it's your credit card, right? It's your bank statement. Sometimes that might be just your debit card linked to your bank account.
Well, I mean,
that's all the money you have.
That's right from the consumer perspective, but SAF absolutely nails it. These corporations, their only responsibility is to provide value to their shareholders.
Exactly.
I know.
Value means cutting budgets and laying off people and not investing. Security is always going to look like an expense, a red line item. It's never going to look like something that generates income. And so they have no incentive to really invest in that platform. And when it fails, they have no incentive to notify their customer base until such notification is a positive for them and not a negative for them. And so anything that might hit the stock price, anything that they can make sure that they can get golden parachutes out and people can sell off, their only incentive, any corporation, it doesn't matter. They're not your friends. You might build your lifestyle fashion look off of their brand. They don't care. Their only reason for existence is to generate wealth for the people that have invested in their platform.
Well, just to let you guys know, we're here for you. Okay.
That's right. Well, that's why we should have a healthy.
Until we see a brand sponsor pop up.
Well, I hear what all you guys say.
Let's be real. Let's just be real.
And we'll get
responsibility of these
companies. The FTC will come after us, but we don't have an army of lawyers, so that's why the FTC will win with us. They'll never go after the source.
Exactly. Sir, Sam, quickly before we move on.
The responsibility of these companies are not just to the shareholders. The responsibility of these companies also are to the people who basically keep, or to the people whose information, financial information you do keep, because they can be held liable for not creating a secure enough database to make sure that these consumers are protected by bad actors. So it's not just they're not your friends.
No.
Business with a merchant. The merchant has a responsibility.
They have a responsibility because of laws. You're absolutely right there.
Is that responsibility?
But whenever a company like this gets hit, what do? They get millions of dollars in fines for billions of dollars worth of revenue. Their responsibility to us begins and ends with whether or not the look or the optics of this is going to cost them more money in lawsuits or in fixes. If they were doing business up front, this wouldn't even be an issue. If they were doing business right, this wouldn't have been a problem. But every single time we've seen a failure, and this isn't unique to OnePlus. I'm not just picking on OnePlus here. It's every single major corporation that traffics in this kind of user data. We all know that they're probably highly vulnerable and they're probably wide open to security. And if they do get tagged by some sort of regulatory agency, you believe in this administration that they're going to get hit hard? Come on, man.
Well, it's not just to me. It's not just about. Oh, sorry, Warren. Go ahead.
Well, what's interesting is that a lot of there's some laws that have been changed, especially over by where SuperSaf is in London in the EU with what is it called, GDRP? I can't remember the acronym, but there a lot of the laws are changing in terms of protecting user data and putting ownership more on the companies and making it more recognized that even if companies own data, it still belongs to the user essentially, and you have some responsibility to that. And there are a lot of heavier fines and things that are coming along over in the EU that are really going to maybe curb a lot of these type of things. Now, if this hits the US, I'm not totally sure on that. It's OnePlus. When's the last time? I mean, it seems like every 4 to 6 months, all we hear is they breached something, they leaked something, this sort of happened. How come we hear this from this apparently the most popular I guess we'll call them an independent phone manufacturer? We never hear this from the other bigger players out there. So it's kind of like what is OnePlus doing? Why are they still acting like rookies with damn near 7 phones out, and still don't have a carrier deal? And I'm always going to slide them on that. 7 phones and no carrier deal.
Well, to be fair with them, we saw what happened with Huawei. So
yeah, but that has more to do with the administration thing, more so than it has to do. Like Huawei still hasn't leaked out. Of course, I know they haven't leaked my data out, lost my credit cards, had a selfie contest.
Okay. before we digress, let's just skip the OnePlus barrels of L's, and let's just move forward. And we understand. We're trying to get to that YouTube topic, but before we do that, CES was the last week. Sam wasn't there, so Sam, unless you can tell us, of course, what you saw from everyone.
No, this is my time to go get some tea and like make breakfast. You guys just keep on talking.
Put up an away message.
Interested in the conversation about CES. He's off to go make some.
Sam's like
watching this podcast. If you want to do that for a little while, go follow Sam.
Hey, anyone wants to join me on the breakfast crew? Let's go do this right now.
All right. So but CES, I want us to just kind of talk about our winners and losers. And Saf, this was your first CES, right?
Yep, first one.
Okay, so this is your first
CES.
about
them. I really want to know what you saw.
Yeah. Tell me just your experience, what you thought was great, what you thought didn't work well, that kind of thing, just in summary.
So I mean, it was overwhelming. As soon as I woke, lights went off, so that was fun. But yeah, I mean, it was also I think for me, like the one thing that I was drawn towards straight away was the 146 micro LED TV from Samsung. And that seemed like the busiest place there as well, because every time I went to see it, there was like 50 people in front of it. So you couldn't actually get close enough to get footage. So that was pretty interesting. Losers, I mean, if I'm completely honest with you, because I was only there for a limited period of time. I was there for 2 full days, I'd say. So, and I was obviously doing some work and some collaborations with some other YouTubers. So I didn't actually get as much time as I had hoped to kind of check everything out in detail. The foldable, the rollable TV from LG. I wanted to see that. I didn't get a chance. I know Anabong, you made a video about it. That looked pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, there was some interesting stuff, but I wish I had more time to look at more stuff in detail.
Okay, so for you, that 146 modular micro LED TV was your main attractive draw.
Yeah. I mean, my wall looks shit right now. It's just plain. Look at it. It looks like crap. I want to get the Samsung wall.
Okay. Warren, how about you? What were your winners and losers at CES?
Oh man, this CES I didn't get to see as much as I usually get to see, because I was also much similar to Saf, working with a lot of brands and sort of sponsored deals and collaborations that were kind of going on. But from what I did see, it seems like from a hardware perspective, the really 2 cool things we got was obviously Samsung's wall TV and the LG foldable, the roll-up TV are kind of the 2 big things in terms of a hardware perspective that were really cool at CES this year. The main thing that I think was the theme was AI and assistants are in everything possible. Like, if they could have put that thing in a toothbrush, a toilet bowl,
it is in the toilet bowl.
Yeah, it is in a toilet bowl.
They are in toothbrushes too.
They could put it in anything, and you can yell, "Hey Google," if you can yell, "Hey Alexa," or yell, "Hey Siri," or whoever. Mainly the 2 were Alexa and
Google.
And Google were the main 2 pushed for this. It was in there. Shut up! I ain't asked you nothing, Siri. Go sit in the. It's talking right now. I don't like you, Siri. Go sit in the corner. Anyways, she don't do nothing. But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing that I saw there.
Siri too.
That's probably the main thing that I kind of felt was the overall theme, and that's what you saw amongst everything between phones, tablets, speakers, TVs, AI, and that was kind of the main thing. So I think it made it a little bit less interesting because you didn't get to see as much hardware, because a lot of it was just sort of refining the same thing that they kind of had before outside of the wall TVs and stuff like that. But even then, how many of these TVs can you see unless you're doing some type of crazy sort of look to it? But what's interesting with that wall TV, I do want to mention, is that while that's cool, it still isn't as cool as the year before seeing Sony's like wall TV made out of that crystal LED technology that looked like it was looking through a window. Like, and they didn't have that there this year. That thing was on a wall, and it was probably the most amazingly clear picture I've ever seen in my life, and it wasn't around again this year. So
it's not commercially viable for that TV. That's
it needs to exist.
It
needs to exist.
Yeah,
it needs to exist. And you know, SuperSaf can have his Samsung wall, and I can have my giant Sony wall that looks like a window. And then I could program it to say computer, and then I'll do some fancy AI thing for me, like play Minesweeper or make toast or something like that.
Okay.
Who needs a window when you have a 146-inch wall?
Right, it's an episode of Black Mirror just waiting to happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's how it works in Star Trek. They don't have mirrors. They need to go computer, and it goes, then it shows the outside.
Isn't it funny? Like in Discovery, they've got like those transparent holography displays 10 years before the Captain Kirk Enterprise. Like, does anyone else know?
Yeah, it's a different universe, though. It is, right?
They said it was going to be prime timeline, but it's obviously not.
It is not. How about you? Juan?
Oh, so I got a bunch of stuff. Like, I agree. I think in terms of the general trends, it was kind of getting back to TVs, HDR displays, NVIDIA showing off the with a
BFGs.
Oh, did you guys get to play on that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I do have some footage.
120 hertz refresh, 4K display, ultra bright with HDR capabilities. And the setup that they had at the Asus booth was in one of those hotel suites, so it was way too close. And I was gaming for about 2 minutes before I was ready to roll. It's too good. Like, you've got to sit back from it. It's pretty epic. But yeah, that kind of display tech was a really big deal. And I think a lot of even the little hardware things that I found, I was right with you, Warren. It was like, how can we cram in Amazon's Alexa and Google Home into everything? Lenovo showing off a smart screen. Basically, what was it? The Amazon Show, but for Google Assistant.
Yeah, Lenovo
we should also note this, in that I think Google literally bought every ad in Vegas.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Literally.
Oh, they were out in force.
In Vegas. Like outside my hotel over by where they have the MGM sign, I can see it clearly. Hey, every other ad was "Hey Google." Like I'm not even joking. I should have filmed it. Like it was kind of crazy. Hey Google. I was like, again? Shut up.
Continue, Juan.
Yeah, but so for me, there was a lot of like smaller tech though. I love cruising South Hall. I mean, North Hall, all the huge booths, they're fun, they're audacious. You get to see giant TVs and stuff. But there was a new Garmin unit out that is really kind of cool. Again, their big hook is that they're building in Amazon Alexa, but it's a tiny little heads-up display with very simple turn-by-turn directions that you can keep up at eye level, which also has what do you call it, dash camera that adds lane guidance and accident collision avoidance and stuff. Like, just this great little $200 unit that's kind of like every piece of car tech you'd want rolled into one piece that stays up at eye level. I was really impressed. Sennheiser had their first soundbar out. It's a 13 speaker soundbar, sits under your TV, and it creates a more surround sound like experience just from one front facing piece of hardware. And then I also got to give it up to DJI, with Osmo Mobile 2. It's just a nicely refined update over the original Osmo, but since so many of us are trying to push more and more of our production into mobile, $130 for a really well polished smartphone gimbal, motorized gimbal, is kind of a big deal. That I'm gonna have it on pre-order. It goes on pre-order in a couple days, and I'm gonna be picking one up because for me, I did everything from the show floor from my phone. So I shot video, recorded voiceover, edited, rendered 4K video, and uploaded all from my LG V30. And while I had a GorillaPod rig to kind of get all that done, having a really nice, cheap gimbal would probably have been helpful in a lot of places. So
cool.
So I had a lot of hardware wins for smaller stuff. And again, for display tech, I would totally recommend checking out the new screens from Asus. They've got a range of new portable professional monitors So you can get like a little, I think it's like a little 12-inch, it's smaller than most laptop screens. It's 12-inch monitor, battery powered, so it doesn't kill your other devices, completely hooks up over USB-C. And not only can it be a second screen to a laptop, but it will also screen mirror any current Android phone.
Can I use it on my camera? No.
Well, it's USB-C, so no. That's what I just said, is USB-C. But you know, because we were showing off, someone else, I'm sorry, in the live chat, I think it was Ronald, was asking about Project Linda, and we are getting to that point. You know, at the beginning of this year, we were all criticizing Apple, saying it was too early for them to be calling iPads Pros, but they weren't wrong. They were just too early. And now you look at something like Project Linda, you look at Dex, you look at where we could have gone with Continuum, Huawei, you plug in a cable, hook it up to a monitor, and you've got a new desktop style layout. These things are getting really good. I edited, rendered, shot, recorded voiceover, and produced 4K video all from my phone. You know, something like a Project Linda or a Zen Screen Go from Asus giving me just a slightly larger workspace. This stuff is there's a lot of merit there. There's a lot of potential there. And I think this is something that we can push forward on over the next year.
I'm probably the only one that's not that excited over Project Linda.
No, you're not the only one. I'm the same way.
Because I think my problem with these docs, and we have seen these docs, speaking of CES, we saw this way back with Atrix.
Yeah.
Which somebody might have like lifted the actual doc and kind of walked away with it. That man will not be named. Who did that here in an event? But
it's not so much around. But no, you're not wrong. It's not so much Linda, because I think Linda is limited by the fact that it's proprietary to a smartphone that's probably not going to be a heavy player anytime soon.
Exactly.
You know, so you get your Razer phone, you get your Project Linda, and that's locked to that one experience. Unless Razer commits to only ever making phones in exactly that form factor so you can move your Linda dock on, then no, that's not what's exciting. What's exciting is mobile apps and services really are competing against desktop grade fare. I was writing my scripts in Microsoft Word, so it wasn't like I was compromising on my editor. I was editing video in PowerDirector, so I had 3 tracks of video, 5 tracks of audio, transitions. I could have gone green screen if I wanted to, if I'd had a portable green screen set up. And all of it could have been edited directly from my phone. And I'm not editing crappy 1080p video. I'm editing and rendering 4K video. So if I had just a larger workspace that was powered by my phone, that would have been a benefit, because I was scrubbing and trimming and cutting video on my 6-inch phone screen. It's not bad, but we could have done better. And so Linda, I think, is just a proof of concept that we are getting to that point. And it's going to just be reinforced with Windows on ARM. You know, running Windows 10 on a Qualcomm 845, we are moving there. We are getting there. And so for me, it was the Zen Screen Go. I want that thing so bad. A $300 professionally calibrated professional monitor, USB-C. It'll work with my laptop. It'll work with my phone. It'll work with anything USB-C. That's a big deal. And that really would have helped me in production space. And it only would have meant carrying a tablet-sized thing with me in addition to my phone. That is actually starting to move us forward.
Cool.
Seems very similar to the Note 8. The Note 8 with Dex.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it is
speaking of that, I think the only 2 companies that are really going to actually be successful with offering something like that is going to be Samsung or Google, because they have a proven track record of supporting the software and will have the devices that are also proven that people will trust that they could buy something like that dock or that laptop that you can throw it into, and be assured that it's something that's not just something that's going to be a 1-year time thing or a 1-year thing, and then they don't sell enough and they just get rid of it. So I'd actually be more interested in it if Samsung or Google are doing it versus anyone else, just because I just don't think the support's going to be there.
That's why I like universal products, you know. So if I get the Zen Screen Go and it works with my laptop or my phone, and I have a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse that I can pair with either my laptop or my phone, then I don't even need to worry about having a Dex, you know. Like, it'll work with a Samsung. It'll work just fine with a Samsung. It'll work with an LG. It'll work with a Moto. It'll work with anything that has a USB-C port on the bottom and an actual USB 3 connection. So that's what I'm excited about, is the idea that I could build my own and that it'll follow me to any future phone or laptop or tablet or convertible that I want to take it to.
Okay. I already have my list of things that I like at CES. I love the 146 wall, the rollable display, the hologram or the pseudo hologram in the South Hall, the spinning blades by a company called Hypervision.
Yeah, that looks.
Oh
so
yeah, that was in the design and
yeah, it was South Hall.
South Hall, sponsored by Alibaba. I remember that.
That stopped everyone. It was just literally it's like fan blades that spin really fast and give you this pseudo holographic look.
There was a couple of companies there that were doing that. That was so cool.
Yeah. And it looked really good. You know, you could combine more fans to make it a bigger image, or you could have a single fan as well. One from Qualcomm, which I think a lot of companies are going to pick up, is they showcase a soundbar that was powered by the 835 processor that literally did exactly the same thing as Dolby Atmos, except for the rear firing speakers, and basically telling you that you can now have cheaper sound, you know, because Dolby Atmos speakers are about 1,000, maybe 1,500 for just the sound by itself minus the rear speakers. That you could get that at a much cheaper price point for better audio. And you know, they played this thing, and I was like, did you guys actually mimic the sound travel correctly? I mean, it really sounded that good for something like a $20 soundbar. So no need to spend, you know, $500-600 for that kind of stuff. I thought that was also really cool. Yeah, you guys are right. Google came and dropped cash at Vegas and won. They literally went to roulette table, went on black, and just said, we're owning this whole thing.
They just took a big sack of money and just went kamehameha all over Vegas.
Now, and then the other piece of tech that I liked that was, I saw a smaller demo with Samsung, which for the life of God, nobody has done this on TVs for a while. They have a system. You know how when you're watching regular TV, say you're watching a sports game and it goes to commercial, the volume goes up. And then you switch to a different channel, the volume drops down. You keep increasing and decreasing the volume whenever you're switching channels or it goes to commercial. When you hit whatever button on the remote, it keeps the volume balanced all across the way.
Yeah, I'm shocked that we've seen very few. There was a what do you call that? Stereo unit that used to have it, and it was all in hardware. So they had a built-in compressor. Just like you would have in a recording studio, and you could sit there and adjust knobs like at this threshold by 5 dB. And I used to have one just plugged into my old stereo to do the same thing. But it's shocking that more TV manufacturers haven't been doing that natively.
Oh yeah, they had it, and they said that it could technically work with your soundbar as well, but right now it's just on their TVs themselves, just to give you that nice equal balance. And also their 8K upscaling was very good. It's one of those weird things where you see 720p look better on an 8K display as opposed to when you're watching it on your 4K display out there. Now, my biggest L, I had to go there, is the one company that didn't show up was Microsoft and Cortana, because they were slapped
LLLs,
seriously,
all kinds of L's
by Google, and just by the presence of Google and Alexa everywhere. Every booth you saw Google, Amazon was like, oh, we got cash too. We're here, you know? And there was no Microsoft present. Like, you know, Apple doesn't need to. Apple is fine because they have their own ecosystem. And there were still a few people who said, oh yeah, this supports HomeKit, you know? There were people there who said, yes, this will still work with Apple. Microsoft had zero presence. So that was very hard to see, but hey, it is what it is.
It's Microsoft. They like taking L's, and it's just another day, just another L add on. They filled up their calendar for 20. It's like a punch card that you get when you go to lunches. They just keep punching that card in full of L's, and they just decided to trade their 2017 and one for a fresh one in 2018. Got to start off the right way, so punch in some more L's.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next topic. The Galaxy S9. It's around the corner. See, Saf is already. Saf is like, yeah, that's all me right there. So we've heard rumors. Samsung exec said it was going to launch at MWC. I believe he wasn't supposed to say anything, but he just kind of let it out. But we know it's going to launch around that time anyway. So it's going to launch in Barcelona. The rumor date for the S8 launch, I believe, is March 16th, right?
Yeah, so according to Evan Blass, 1st of March will be pre-orders, and 16th of March will be shipments.
And then, of course, the event is on the 26th of February. So, Saf, I know you've done some videos on this. Can you tell us about some of the specs, what we can expect? Because I'm hearing variable focal lengths variable apertures, I believe, for the camera between f1.5 to 2.6, which
2.4.
Oh, 2.4, yes. Sure. If you can give us a lowdown, because this is your specialty. I'm gonna let you take this.
Let him give the rundown.
Oh my the rundown. Saf is like, I want to say something. Like, can you keep quiet? Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
So you just say everything. I'll just agree or disagree with you. I just correct you.
No. Go ahead, because I actually don't know it quite well. Go ahead.
So in terms of the build and design, things are looking like they're going to be quite similar, based on what we're seeing on the leaks. There was a few sort of rumors that we were going to see smaller bezels than we have. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. Personally, I'm happy with the design. I think the S8s are some of the best looking phones out right now, both in terms of the build design, how they feel in the hand, very, very premium. So I'm personally, I know some people will probably be a little bit disappointed. They're probably expecting to see slightly different, but no, it's going to be similar. We're looking at a single camera possibly for the S9 and a dual camera setup for the S9 Plus, similar to what we have with the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. So we'll give you more of a reason potentially to go for the larger, just a larger size, right? In terms of other specifications, we're looking at obviously Snapdragon 845, which I'm really interested to see because that's one of the first flagships of 2018 with the Snapdragon 845. So I want to see how Samsung are going to be working with Qualcomm to possibly give us an HDR video, which will be pretty dope. That's, stereo speakers. That's something we've not seen before on flagship Samsung devices. That's one of the downsides of the S8s, I'd say, and the Note 8. So having stereo speakers would be pretty epic. And that's something that's been leaked on that box, that we saw the specifications on that box. And also the fingerprint scanner, it doesn't look like we're going to see it in the display, but it looks like we will be seeing it in a little bit more of an accessible position at the back, not right up here where the camera is. So more towards this sort of angle, which will be much better. I mean, it would be nice to have it within the display, but it looks like that might be there for the Note 9.
All right. What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Juan, because that variable aperture. What do you think it would bring to the table, especially since the S9 Plus will have that, and the S9 will, definitely won't have it. At least
I'll be curious. I mean, the thing is, those types of considerations are nice. I don't think that people were really upset with not being able to make the aperture smaller on phones. We're already working. So, I mean, if you take a smartphone sensor, the equivalence in the ability to collect light and blur the background of your photos, a roughly half-inch sensor with an f over 1.7 aperture is very similar to an APS-C camera at like f11 or f13. That's the kind of photography. So if you stop down from there, you will be able to sharpen up a little bit and keep the background of your photos looking a little crisper, and that's good, especially if you do a lot of macro shots like I do. It gives you a little bit more of a buffer zone, but you're drastically cutting back the amount of light that tiny little sensor is already struggling to soak up. So I'll be curious to see how it's implemented and for what benefit they're actually trying to drive that at, because it won't help for low light photography. It's going to make your backgrounds more visible in good light, especially if you're trying to do, like portrait mode kind of things. I don't know what the killer app for that is until I can get my hands on one. But everything else I've seen about Galaxy S9 is kind of what I think we need to be doing in 2018. From 2016 to now, smartphones have kind of peaked. Like, I want to see refinement. I want to see iteration. And I'm back on a Galaxy S8 just because we're going to be doing it after the buzz on Pocket now. I know I can get used to things, but I don't like having to get used to things like wonky fingerprint sensor locations or Samsung UI changes just for the sake of UI changes on phones that are this expensive. And that's the last thing that I want to see is, will Samsung jack the price on us just because Apple did? You know, what is the value add once we start talking about $800-900 phones in a market that's pretty well saturated and has plateaued as much as it has? We're not going to see crazy new design accents because we've all agreed on the 2:1 aspect ratio, ultra thin bezel, curved glass screen phone. We're all there. So there's nowhere left to go with our phones until we start peeling services back off of them and adopt other things like AR. So AI is going to be cool. Qualcomm's going to have a hand in that. And I want to see what they can do for camera tech, because I still think the Galaxy S7 has been the peak of smartphone auto mode and manual mode photography.
Sam, what do you think? Still on mute, Sam.
Not bad. Well, looking at it, it looks really promising. I'm really interested to see what they do with the iris scanner, because the iris scanner for me was, I use a Note 8, so the iris scanner was really very useful. But it was somewhat slow. It could be improved. It could be faster. It'd be interesting to see how they implement this, to see exactly, you know, if people can actually have that as a real alternative to using the fingerprint scanner.
Okay. Gadgets Boy says that the variable aperture is for better slow-mo and stable shots. That is what he's stating. So, you know what, Gadget Boy, I need proof, bro. I need proof.
No. For Gadget Boy, I've heard that too. The thing I don't get, you know, again, variable aperture means all we can do is make the aperture smaller from where we're at now. They're not going to give us a 1.0 aperture on a tiny little, they're not going to build a lens big enough on the back of the phone. So if we make the aperture smaller, slow-mo video already has a problem with not getting enough light. So the slow-mo video might look a little bit better if you're under super bright light, but that wasn't the problem we had with Samsung and slow motion video. So, I mean, I'm just really confused as to what benefit this really brings smartphones. If we had a 1-inch sensor on the back of our phones instead of these tiny little 1/2-inch sensors, then having a variable aperture would actually be more of a benefit, because we'd all be running into problems, blowing out highlights, and actually having way too much blur, a way too shallow depth of field. I went and did a video revisiting the Lumia 1020. You know, like a variable aperture on that phone actually would have been a nice perk, because that sensor is so much larger.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what it is that they pitch this at, because I don't know what problem it's trying to solve on a smaller sensor.
Well, we'll see it on February 26th. Warren, how about you?
Yeah, the everything kind of looks good from the specs perspective. From the camera perspective, it seems like I think all anyone's going to care about is how much bokeh you can do now, well, how better your portrait modes can look. Can you make your selfies look like the Pixel 2? I'm just saying that's what people are gonna want to see.
Yeah,
that's how 90% of the reviewers out there are going to review this phone. It's going to be how much bokeh and how good my selfie picture looks compared to the Pixel, and that's going to be the review of the camera. I'd like to see them do more on video side of things, more so than the just a regular camera. I mean, pictures are pretty good in where they at now, and I think right now, unless you got machine learning AI and you got a giant server that a phone can talk back to, you ain't competing with Google anytime soon and getting the best photo, especially in auto mode on a consistent basis. But on a video perspective, where LG's really sort of shine there, I'd like to see Samsung sort of maybe attack that a little bit and create a little bit better video quality, a little bit more better video tools, and let us really refine that piece of the camera more so than just than what they're doing sort of with the regular camera on there. Because like I said, I think right now today is really all about how better can you make your photos look compared to the Pixel 2, and how much bokeh you can throw inside of it. I'm just going for generalization of what most consumers will kind of look at, more so than, you know, us in the tech space that are.
Yeah, you know what? I blame Saf and all those SuperSaf selfies, man. I'm sorry. It's you, man. You wrecked it for us, man. Literally, yeah. That's it. Look at him. He's just laughing there. Of course.
Of course. But he puts out good quality camera. Let us know how it really works. Reviews out there. So I trust Saf when he says like if the front-facing camera is good or not. I mean, I hate taking selfies, and the only time I've taken them has been with the Pixel 2. You can actually see how hard is it for me to take a selfie. It's actually
let's call it this way, right? When we went to Hawaii, these guys made me their personal photographer. To
Oh,
take
so
me
you
photos.
so you were Daniel.
Yeah, pretty much. I was taking everyone's photos, which was, it was cool though.
You took some good shots, man.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience where everyone, you know, especially what the Pixel has done, everyone kind of just ditched their cameras and said we're just using the Pixel. So now when somebody wants to take a photo, a selfie, a group selfie, you're like, just use this camera, please. Don't. It's kind of like how when the Lumia 1020 first came.
Oh
out.
yeah.
The same thing where it was like, please keep your other phones away and let's use this. But let's rush through 2 other topics so we can get to the YouTube monetization. And I just want to get just your yay or nay on these ones. Huawei's new quick charge, 48% in 5 minutes. Do you want it? Yes or no?
Please don't burn my phone.
Okay, you said this, so that is your answer. How about you, Juan?
Always want faster charging, but this is actually something that they showed off back in 2015. I'm curious as to why they're bringing it back.
They showed it on the Ascend when they showed reverse charging on a phone. Yeah, I remember that. I was at that event. They showed it there.
Saf, how about you?
Yeah, faster charging, sign me up. But just when are we going to see it in action? I mean, like, when are we going to see it mainstream? We talk about it. I want it on my phone. Give it me on my phone, and then I'll give you 2 thumbs up.
Sam?
It's cool.
Damn, a little more creative, Sam.
Sam's like,
but not too cool.
Sam's like,
you said yay and nay, just like a one-word answer. I'm like, it's cool.
It's cool.
But there was no enthusiasm behind that, so I wasn't sure how cool it was.
It's 48% in 5 minutes, right? And what about the other 52%? How long is it going to take?
Such a man.
Oh, no, that's the real question. How long does it take to fully charge your phone? It's not okay. My phone's at 48%. Great, I can now go for the rest of the day.
As much as they're focusing on wired charging to go this fast, I wish they'd make wireless charging match the actual speed of current wired charging.
Oh, that would be nice.
That'd be a lot.
That would be good. Next one, LG. It looks like rumors are LG is going to stop the G series line and create another device. And it looks like MWC, they're going to release a V30 with AI. Yeah.
Are we sure they're stopping the G series line, or they're just refurbing the G7?
I mean,
from what I'm seeing on Tour Life, is they're scrapping the G7
and starting from scratch. Good information and no confirmation. Nobody knows WTF.
Most indications seems like they're going to call it something else other than a G7, at least whatever.
Right now, one of the rumors is Icon, just like the old Verizon Lumia 930.
Yeah.
Well, they probably need to change their branding anyways. I mean, they've been on the Optimus G line for about 7 years now, and none of them has been that big of a successful hit compared to any Galaxy that's been out there. Probably the most they probably sold was a G4 that I can think of.
And that blew up in their face.
Yeah, and that kind of blew up in their face. And the G5, we know where that went. And the G6, while a great phone, I just think couldn't really compete against anyone else out there in the market. And the sad thing was the G6 is probably their best and most refined phone outside of their software, but everything else was very good with it. And they just couldn't really get that out there. But the V30 seems to have a nice fan base that's starting to sort of build. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start to focus more on pushing stuff into the V series, and that becomes a flagship line, and they may just have that as their flagship and maybe just focus on mid-range phones from going forward, which is probably a good strategy for them.
Yeah, what I really hope to see, and I don't give LG this credit because I don't know that they're really addressing the main problem. I don't think the main problem is their phones. I think the main problem is they announce a phone. It takes 2 months before anyone can get their hands on it. And then they'll have a day of advertising on launch day. And then that phone disappears. Like, they don't talk about their products. They don't update their products. All of the back end stuff is where you build that brand loyalty, and the advertising is where you build that brand awareness. And they don't do either of those things. So what I really hope to see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Warren.
And another thing, they need to. This is more shop talk for the rest of us here. They need to stop telling us we can't review the damn phones when they get them to us.
Well, but that's
that
the big
is
problem.
So annoying. Like, here's a prototype of the same thing that we're going to release 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you guys get them. I don't.
So
they asked me about the V30 it was towards November, mid-November, end December, and I was like, I don't have time to cover it now because we've got the OnePlus 5T and I've got the iPhone covering.
Mine's still sitting on the box, so
Yes, but I mean, it's too late. So too little, too late. I mean, they should really be pushing towards. I mean, I would have rather have had the device to actually do some stuff with it rather than get it. Like, I mean, with that, here in UK, it released in shops on 6th of December. Way too late.
Wow.
Everybody's already upgraded to either a Note, an iPhone, or one
or a Pixel.
Pixel.
It's too late. Exactly.
So what my hope is let's stop pretending that they have two different lines of phones. The G6 and the V30 by last year were really the big and little versions of kind of the same phone idea. So if they hold off, if they scrap their current timetable for where the G7 would have tried to compete against the beginning of the year Samsung's, and they can make a big little combo, and the icons, whatever they want to call it, and the V30 doesn't really need to change. It was ahead of the curve on design. If they had it out in stores when they announced it, the iPhone would have looked derivative. The V30 would have led the charge on this design language, and it would have done so handily because it's a gorgeous phone. So let's go TikTok. Let's play the Apple game. Keep the same frame. And the fact that they're saying AI means all we're getting is a V30 with a Qualcomm 845. And literally, that's all we need. Maybe it bumps up the RAM and the storage a little bit, whatever. I don't care. The V30 was baller on the CES show floor. That thing did not let me down under very aggressive production use. So iterate. Don't even try and change your tooling or your manufacturing or your design language. Keep all that. Keep it. And now better refine and better support your products moving forward. If you do that and you announce a V30 a month before the iPhone and you have it out in stores a month before the iPhone launch at the end of 2018, LG could do better. But then they also still need to do all the back-end work, supporting the products, updating the software, and keeping ads on the air. I don't think anyone watching here could describe an LG commercial. Like, they just don't exist. You have to go to the people, or they won't even know your product exists.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
and they got to change that. And I think if they're going to announce this, if they're going to announce this phone. If they're going to announce this phone as a V30, I hope they don't call it the V30i. I hope they just call it like a V35i or something like that. Change the number just a little bit to tweak it for
the Icon Plus. I mean, seriously, the consumers don't even know the V30 exists. And you don't even need to pretend.
Didn't even that Icon's such a terrible name. It didn't even work.
No, but I mean,
it's such a terrible name.
Just walk away. But
this is Sam. Go ahead.
Call it what we've been saying for the longest time. Like, basically, phones are moving away from flagship and moving more to specialization. Right. That's why we see phones like the Note being successful. Phones like the V30 beginning to gain traction because there's an actual use case for this phone. Like, when you buy this phone, if you are a creator, if you're a content creator, this is the phone you want. If you're a road warrior, maybe the Note 8 is something that you want. So
yeah, if you go swimming in Hawaii, the V30 will take underwater photos for you.
that sounds very personal, man.
About how didn't that break? Did
it died after extensive use, but Fisher put it through hell. Like, it was 2 hours of underwater swim in salt water, and
then it died.
It died, yeah. It still died, but
I mean, think about LG actually has one thing that literally no other manufacturer in the mobile space can compete with. Where is that 15-second commercial just detailing that they do objectively, without question, have the absolute best headphone jack on a phone? You know, if you're going to put the time, money, and effort to actually put it in there, tell people.
That's only you, E.
But, you know, people say they care about these things. We know they really don't. They'll just keep buying from the same manufacturer they always buy from. The second Samsung gets rid of the headphone jack, everyone's going to say, well, yeah, it was the right time to do it because Samsung said so.
Actually, I think they'll go against it. I disagree with that. I think that'll be the time that they'll actually care. I think they'll actually pay attention.
No, I mean, it's going to be the same thing as Apple. They'll care, and then they'll go out and buy the next iPhone. They'll care, and they'll complain about it, but then they're still going to give the money to the company they know and the company they understand.
They have an
incentive. Samsung's not going to do it next year, but we know the writing's on the wall.
They have an incentive to keep the headphone jack instead of their own Harman. They have a huge incentive to keep it in there.
Not as soon as they finish this branding exercise, because what are they really doing with Harman's labels? They're sticking them on Samsung products. I see the AKG label on Samsung earbuds tuned
AKG
by
tuned.
Yeah, I can go get my car tuned up by a Ferrari engineer. It doesn't mean that my Nissan's now Ferrari.
Yeah,
But
it
as
does.
soon as they
It
use
has
the
the label on
AKG
it.
label
Label's a
on a
9/10 of the law.
dongle, as soon as they use the AKG label on a pair of Bluetooth earbuds, they're going to walk away just like Apple did. It only took a year from Apple buying Beats to removing the headphone jack in their phones to try and capitalize on that $1 billion investment. Samsung's going to do the same thing. It's not going to happen in 2018. Might happen in 2019, might happen in 2020. But as soon as it does happen, all of these people that were like, haha, yeah, my phone still has a headphone jack are going to be saying, oh, well, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but I'm still going to buy the next Galaxy. You know, it's going to happen.
Yeah. What? I've got a media player. That's what I carry now.
I've got my Fio right over there, and hopefully I rocks it a little bit longer too.
I like this, that, and the V30. After that, I know it's just toast. I've seen the writing on the wall. It's sad. It's very sad. But speaking of writing on the wall, YouTube announced its new monetization policy. Look at that segue, guys. That was awesome, right? You guys are terrible. Anyway.
No, I mean, that silence was how we really felt.
YouTube announced its new monetization policy that basically some people say this is response after the whole Logan Paul incident, also response to the apocalypse from last year, whatever you want to call it. But this new monetization policy basically affects a lot of smaller channels. So please correct me if I'm wrong in terms of the numbers. You need to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of view time within the last 12 months for you to be able to get monetized. Now, YouTube says 90% of those channels only make about less than $100 a year, or
$2.50.
Yeah, exactly. So
so
that much.
99% of those channels make less than $100 per year, and 90% of those made less than $2.50 over the last month.
Yeah. So it's affecting the smaller channels. Now, a lot of people have talked about this. You know, everybody has different viewpoints. I know for one, Andrew Edwards talked about this. He did a little Instagram thing and said, you know, make your money somewhere else. You know, don't be discouraged by YouTube and what they do, because you got to diversify. I know you've talked about it, Saf, as well as also you know, you, Juan. So there's a different standpoint. I want to get your viewpoints here. And Saf, I want to start with you. And what do you think this does? How does it affect channels? And what's the advice you give to YouTubers who are starting off and are kind of maybe stuck in that predicament where they may have more numbers, but they may not have the view, the hours in terms of view time for the year?
So in a nutshell, I mean, I did a live stream about this to kind of the issue. I get why YouTube are doing it. Following Adpocalypse last year and all of the things that happened. Right now, anybody can just go online, post a video, start monetizing it. Now, the biggest issue with that is you're going to get lots of, as YouTube called them, bad actors. And I've been dealing with those bad actors for a long time, in particular in the way of re-uploads. So hundreds of my videos have been re-uploaded by these people who will then monetize my content that they've stolen from me. And by the time I actually find it or somebody sends it to me and I go through the whole reporting process, they've already made money and probably gone, right? So I think this is going to put people off from doing that, because they are never going to reach the number of subscribers to actually be able to monetize their content. And plus, when they do reach that, they're going to have to apply to be a partner, which is what we had to do previously. So I actually applied multiple times to be a partner and I got rejected. And at that time, I didn't even have things like custom thumbnails, which are quite important. So right now, it's not going to affect things like that. You're still going to be able to have custom thumbnails. You're not going to be able to monetize your content. In my opinion, realistically speaking, the small amount of money that you would have been making anyway, I don't think that has a massive impact. I think people need to think long term. Smaller creators, my advice has always been smaller creators, think long term. YouTube is not a place to come here and try to make a quick buck. You need to spend. I've been doing YouTube for 6 years. I only quit my job last year. So clearly it wasn't a money thing for me. It only became that because of it only became a full-time thing because of the time that I couldn't balance it. So my advice always has been and will be, think of YouTube as a long-term thing. And if you do think of YouTube as a long-term thing, this shouldn't affect you, because you need to be looking at that bigger goal rather than, oh, I'm going to lose out on potentially $100, most likely a lot less.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said Juan.
Okay,
You're
Juan, he
next.
said
You
and I couldn't tell if he said Juan or
need
he
to
said
stop.
Juan.
You need to stop being more specific with that.
Juan. Carlos.
So I mean, there are some things that I definitely agree with you there, Saf. There are some things that I also very much disagree with, in that if this was really about curbing bad actors that are stealing all of our videos, because I think we've all found channels that are ripping off our content, they have a content ID system to protect studios that's automated and does a reasonably good job of doing that. Why aren't they extending those same types of benefits to larger channels? I feel that this response, and again, they're trying to curb the wrong problem. If this is a reply to the Logan Pauls and the Adpocalypses, it feels especially punitive to smaller producers. We can sit there and quibble over, oh, well, they're not making that much money. One of the most instructive things when I was creating my channel was seeing what was working, seeing what was generating responses from community, and then also tying that to what was actually working for advertisers. So over that course of the process, it took me a year and a half to get my first $100 payout from YouTube. But especially towards the end of that year and a half, I was learning a lot about what was monetizing and what wasn't, what was really generating a response from the audience and what wasn't. And as I was learning, that money was being dumped into a bucket that I was building towards. There was a goal. There was a process that I could engage with to improve my content and improve my outreach and improve my interactions with my community. Now, not only will a new channel not have access to those types of financial resources and a lot of the other tools that you get when you're a partner. So already you're a huge deficit behind channels like ours, where we have all of the tools and all of the support from YouTube that we can get. Channels that we're monetizing, maybe slowly, maybe only building a little bit, but our work is worth something. It provides a value to YouTube for having any eyeball on their site for any length of time. Those channels that don't meet the requirements, then maybe they were getting $100 check once a year. That their time and their effort and their work was worth $100 a year. So now they don't even get that. So this feels especially disruptive and demoralizing to the smaller community, and it does. It forces us all out. And I think it's just another piece of evidence that YouTube is not interested in continuing a conversation with smaller content creators. They want to be another Netflix. They want to be another cable TV provider. I love YouTube TV, but that's the most innovative thing that they've slapped the YouTube label on. They aren't really fixing problems for us. They aren't really trying to build better collaboration tools for smaller creators. And they seem just fine kind of allowing bad actors at the top of YouTube to continue putting out crap content, but they get millions of views, so that's okay. This is, I think a lot of people are right to be as upset as they are, and trying to tell them like, oh, well, you weren't making that much money anyway. Why be upset? Go make your money somewhere else is kind of a let them eat cake kind of a reply. I'm not saying that's what you were saying, Saf, but I'm getting a little tired of people on Twitter complaining about us complaining.
Okay, Warren.
Whew. All right. So somebody that's been on YouTube as long as I have, which I think is close to 10 years. I think we've both been on YouTube around the same amount of time. I remember the days when you had to apply to be a partner. I was in a partner very, very early. Luckily only had to apply once. I remember he had to jump through.
It was twice, and
they would individually do videos. You had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get in. Back then, when you applied and you got in, you felt like you earned something to get there because you provided some type of quality YouTube that you felt YouTube said, yeah, let's monetize on that. And I remember when they said they were going to open it up to everyone, and we had this discussion. I said, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a big problem that they're not going to be able to get themselves out of. And now they have to do a massive overcorrection years later with the policies that they're putting in place, which is basically going to, in many ways, discourage many creators from wanting to use YouTube as a platform to push themselves a certain way. Now, they still might go on YouTube and still might use it because, as Andrew Edwards says, you got to find different ways to make different streams of revenue. They might use YouTube in one ways to pull money from different brands and different ways about going about it. And I would definitely suggest sort of doing that. But this overcorrection because of the adpocalypse thing is because that's what this portion of it really is. Isn't so much for the Logan Paul thing. That's a different thing that they did with that, which is that manually reviewing Google preferred videos and whatnot. But this massive overcorrection and not grandfathering in people that clearly are trying from I don't know why they can't manually review people that are clearly trying to make it a certain way and giving them a much longer than the 30-day time period to get their time up. It is kind of, to me, sort of them trying to just, trying to seem like they're laying a harsher hammer down, but they're laying the hammer down on the wrong side of things. They're kind of punishing those smaller creators that are trying to get to a certain space, especially because the way we came up in YouTube, me and E, is very, very different than from what it is now to climb into YouTube. We came very early in the space versus much people have kind of come in to most things already being done and trying to carve their niche in there somewhere and get that attention, and having the ability to earn revenue and seeing where things are growing in terms of not only your watch time, your subscribers, your statistics, and everything like that is an encouraging thing to help you produce more. It gives you an idea and measures a stick somewhere. This is why, and I think instead of just complaining, I always like to try to give some type of solution, some type of response that we can, a proper action. I really think that by now they should have had tiers of where people are. There should be different tier levels with different creators, so you have an idea of where you can earn and how high you can get towards something. Because this is the only platform that I know that makes money off you in terms of, because in the end of the day, YouTube's entertainment. It's an entertainment brand. And this is only one of the places that I know that from an entertainment perspective is one of the worst contracts. Almost any place else, from a modeling, acting contract, is like a 10% that they take from you in terms of commission, not 45% that they do take from everyone off of here. And it would be nice to see them adjust that to, as you grow as a creator, much similar to as you grow in as an actor or as a model or whatever you're doing as a musician industry. As you grow, you're making more money. There's less of percentage that needs to be taken from you for compensation for whatever YouTube is doing. And I'd like to see them push more towards that thing. And that would also encourage creators to say, all right, I want to get to, I'm at tier, let's simplify. Let's say tier 3 is the lowest tier you could be at, whatever the case may be. And there's certain requirements, subscribers and watch time to get to tier 2. It's going to give people at tier 3 an incentive to push their channel further to get to that second tier to earn more of that money. But then there's also some people that might say, I'm okay with being at tier 3. I kind of want this. I'm okay with this being here because I have other plans what I want to use YouTube for. But at least I know where I am and I can move up if I want to. If I choose not to do that, I can go and make another strategy another different way. Right now it's just on or off, and there's this Google preferred thing, which is this other tier they don't tell anybody about, or wherever they throw your channel into. Is just kind of ridiculous. To me, YouTube's not maturing its platform in terms of how creators are. It's not maturing in the way to promote growth the proper way. It's really set up now that they're saying to get rid of these bad detractors. It'll get rid of a few people, but it still doesn't solve the fact that people's videos get ripped. And if that's still going to happen, and regardless of if this exists or not, Juan said, there should be some type of content ID extended to creators of a certain size to be able to protect their content. And to me, all this does is going to discourage more than it's actually going to help.
Okay, Sam, thoughts?
Yeah, it's I ultimately think this is a positive thing for YouTube. If you've seen some of the techie chats that we've had, I'm a big person on increasing the barrier to entry for posting content online and monetizing that content, because I've seen some really objectionable things, not just on YouTube, but across social networking or across the whole social network community of things being posted over the 2016, 2017. They're just objectionable. And I think there needs to be a higher bar for people to be able to post things online and monetize it. Now, for the people who are going to be affected by this, the current creators, I totally sympathize with them. I sympathize with the whole idea that these people have come onto a platform to try to make money, and they're not going to be able to monetize.
Sam, your audio just went dead. YouTube. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. I totally sympathize with them.
Yeah, Sam, set that high bar for creating content on YouTube there. Yeah, do that.
No, but at the end of the day, I think we all need to be very cognizant about why this is happening. It's not happening out of nowhere. It's happening because people have abused, basically, I wouldn't say privilege, but the the whole idea of having content on someone else's platform. People have tried to be more outrageous in order to get views, and to me, this does help curb some of these. That's
YouTube's fault, though, in my case, for not policing it. That's their fault.
Exactly.
That's not the
I agree
fault.
that
Why punish your creators? Why punish your creators for the simple fact that YouTube can't sit there and punish somebody because they're too large of a creator?
Because there are 300 videos a minute being uploaded to YouTube, and YouTube does not have the manpower. No company right now has the manpower enough. So basically,
it's 400 hours per minute, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of content.
So it's increased this way. Come on, it's impossible to do that.
But they can sit here and slap smaller people for less things. They can do that within instance, within minutes, within seconds. But they can't do that to the larger creators, the ones that have 5 and 10 million. They can't do that too. They don't do it to them.
Well, you see. Well, yes, they can do that, and yes, it took them a little bit of a time when it came to the Logan Paul issue. If we want to say slap down,
they still didn't do it right. It's crap.
No, they did do something right. They removed him from YPP. They did remove him from YPP.
That doesn't change his paycheck. That still allows him to promote and push content onto it. Why didn't you suspend him?
Yeah, but that's a higher tier of revenue. They removed him from a higher tier of revenue.
Channel would have been deleted for doing less. It's crap, dude.
That's because they don't make enough money off of those people.
Saf?
As a business, YouTube, right? Okay, if they're going to remove Logan Paul, he's got millions of followers who will follow him to wherever he goes.
They let him go there.
So the thing is, with YouTube as a business, they need to see that they are getting millions of hours of watch time through this one creator. Yes, they need to punish him, but they can't just completely I
agree with that.
I agree with taking them off, but there should have been something harder.
You need a balance, basically. I think with everything you need a balance. I think what they're doing here as well, this is not related to the Logan Paul issue. This was actually discussed previously, and this is why they also had the 10,000 view. Initially they had the requirement last year, right? But that clearly didn't work because you could get 10,000 views just by putting a clickbait thumbnail, right? You're going to get those 10,000.
Right.
So they needed something different, and I think this is a positive thing overall. Yes, I understand that it's going to demotivate smaller creators, but I think I will stick back to my original point that if you're thinking about this long term and you really are serious about the YouTube game, then this shouldn't be that much of a big deal because you're going to be looking at, firstly, gaining that audience. You're going to be looking at gaining that watch time, and then you're going to be making money. If I was just relying on YouTube AdSense, I would not be able to do this full time. As another side note, YouTube is a platform that gains you a following, and then you can sort of expand that following across other social media networks, again, through this base, and then you can make actual money from things like brand deals.
Sorry, Saf said actual money.
No, I mean, Saf
said actual money.
Saf, say that again. Say actual money. That needs to be reiterated.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a question over here. How many of you guys could just live on AdSense alone?
No.
but I think that's really the point. What you just mentioned is actually really the point, right?
There you go.
And I actually would challenge the order you put things in. I think a lot of people see YouTube as a way of generating revenue. I see YouTube and I see a lot of these social networks as a way of basically creating consumer engagement. So it's not just for engaging. It's not just for creating content to draw people. It's also for engaging the people you already have that buy services from you. It is an added benefit. It shouldn't be your core business.
But what I've seen when I had half the number of subscribers that I have now, and YouTube's algorithms weren't so draconian, I was able to make rent off of just YouTube. So, you know, I couldn't put food on the table. I couldn't make car payments, couldn't pay off the credit card. But with half the number of subscribers, I could pay rent. Since the adpocalypse has gone down, and since the Logan Paul thing has encouraged more advertisers to pull, with twice as many subscribers, or actually more than that, almost 3 times as many subscribers, twice the watch time, twice the time on site, and growing my channel significantly more over that period of time, my revenue has been cut down to about 15 to 20% of what it used to be. So getting back to your point, Saf, about this not being a reply to Logan Paul, but why they need to keep a Logan Paul because he generates so much time on site. A Logan Paul does way more damage to the YouTube brand in these kinds of crazy shenanigans, and they still give him a platform to continue growing, building his own audience where he can go and sell merch and monetize in other ways. So this is the trickle down effect. This is what happens when you let bad players continue to leverage your platform for their own personal benefit, for their own ends, and then it radically affects everyone who's much smaller than them.
At some point, they're going to have to sit back and say, no one's bigger than
you
the
get
brand.
rid of a Logan Paul, you bring back advertisers, because that's what advertisers want. They don't care about the morality. They want to see the imaging. If it's a bad image, if it's a bad look, they'll walk away.
NBC,
those advertisers,
football, all of them do this. They'll get rid of someone instantly if it's going to affect their advertising.
No, I think the problem with YouTube here is a very simple one that the company has refused to address for a very long time. YouTube doesn't have a structure as a company in terms of the YouTubers and the influencers that they have here. Like, you know, you talked about having a tier system. You talked about having ID. The fact that YouTube doesn't even have a proper punishment system either for something like this, where, you know, when you do these kind of things, yeah, we're taking you off Google Preferred, and yes, you're going to lose monetization for a month or 2.
Yeah,
like it's gone. That's your punishment, and you and stop being a secretive company too as well. Well,
it definitely we can definitely point to this not being that whatever punitive system that YouTube has is not applied consistently.
Yeah,
no,
not applied fairly. Every single one of my videos is demonetized, every single one, and it's always demonetized around when my peak views would be. I produce some political commentary, so I know that can be a little dicey, especially we're talking about net neutrality, stuff like that. But, you know, like if I'm putting out a review on a phone, or if I'm like, I did like a 360-degree camera, that got demonetized. I know I'm not showing up in search for my video criticizing the new YouTube rules. Shock, gasp, that they don't seem to be putting that on any kind of promoted tab or anything. But you know, I still get every single day. It doesn't matter how many times I've told them I'm not interested in PewDiePie. I'm not interested in Philip DeFranco. I'm not interested in a Logan Paul. They're always in my suggested videos. Well, you watched another video from Joe Rogan. Don't you want to watch Philip DeFranco? No. Stop suggesting Phil DeFranco. I'm not interested. So it doesn't matter if they make this like, well, we pulled him from, you know, like this preferred program. Neat. He is still one of the most juggernaut forces in 2018 in search, and he's been validated by so much news media and news coverage that he can absolutely wreck YouTube's algorithms, and they're not going to do anything about that. But a smaller channel would have been yanked off immediately for anything similar to that if there had been enough outcry.
Right,
so that's where this is a major problem in having a consistent disciplinary approach to making sure that the YouTube brand stays golden.
Yeah,
you know, that watch time doesn't help if YouTube's metrics are utterly wrecked. And there's a part of me that kind of thinks like YouTube wants this to completely crater so that they can then say, well, you know what, we gave it a shot. We couldn't find a way to do this. We're going to drastically change this business approach. And look, we're the next Netflix. That's what I think they've been building towards over the last couple years.
And to me, I think it's a sad thing because, like you said, you know, to me, if I'm part of the punishment crew at YouTube, if Logan Paul does this, I take him off YPP and I say 3 months, we will monetize your videos. We get all the money. Remember that. Like literally, you will see ads running through that. You're not getting anything.
I think they legally can't do that part.
I don't think they can do that. But you know,
you demonetize him then.
But I would just demonetize him for
3 months and say yes, you have to learn a lesson.
But in an era where we don't have net neutrality, why can't Google also say, hey, we're going to mess with your SEO?
There we go.
You can be posting to YouTube, but no one will find your videos.
Yeah.
We already do that anyways.
They do it to me.
No, don't worry. Don't worry, Juan. The AI will like you all of a sudden, somehow, some way, because they made one of the 200 daily freaking changes that they do.
But the thing
All
is,
of a
this,
sudden.
the company
Or
needs...
just wear a beard and look like SuperSaf, and you'll be all right.
Right? I
the beard.
was trying to go through Commander Riker, but I ended up with the Will Wheaton.
But the thing is, this is
SEO
the company needs a structure. You know, like you said, why don't we have a clear structure where, okay, if you're a smaller YouTuber, you know what's the next step you want to get to. Because right now, everybody looks at, okay, I want to be like Logan Paul. I want to be that high up. And it takes a while to get there and not say, look, I want to be at this spot. Okay, fine. If 50,000 is my goal and I only have 1,000 subscribers, but this guy's doing well and this is the tier they're at, or at least this is what I kind of know they're at, then I can
reward people for being assholes like Logan Paul.
Yeah. So as long as
that's the problem they're running into. You have an asshole you can't get rid of. So if you let more assholes creep up,
what I'm saying, Sam, is you can get rid of an asshole.
No,
they don't want to get rid of an asshole.
Oh, they did. They definitely did do it because they switched the algorithm around, so the drama channels dropped. All the drama channels all of a sudden dropped, so they can definitely do it. They just don't want to. That's what it is. It's too much.
They don't want to take the hit. They just don't want to take the hit. And that's it's just not the money he generates for them. It's also his viewers. Don't forget what his demographics are. These are like the core YouTube watching demographics.
And those guys will watch the next asshole that's on YouTube, okay? Like, they will move on. They will find someone else to watch. At some point, you have to say the brand is bigger than the person that's there.
All right.
If Logan Paul switches over to Twitch, they're there in a heartbeat.
Then bye.
YouTube doesn't benefit from them. YouTube doesn't get anything from them, and they will leave as soon as that guy's not on YouTube.
No, they won't. They'll come right back and watch the next asshole that's on YouTube.
Well, they'll watch the next asshole.
They don't care. They'll make money off of that one.
All right. So here's the thing, guys. All right, we gotta
let them go.
They gotta pick out of the 5 of us here who's going to be the asshole we can push up and make our YouTube brand.
I vote Colonel. I vote the Colonel.
No.
That is so easy.
What?
Okay.
I'm voting for you and your rants, man. I'm going for your rants, man.
I want to see Asshole Sam, but I'll follow the Colonel.
No, Asshole Sam is just it's like just not even worth it. Asshole Sam just stays silent. But I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting. To me, I really hope YouTube understands that they need a better structure, because one of the big things that the company is, to me, it's a secretive nature of how they deal with technically their contractors, which is us, is, algorithms change, dealing with YouTube on certain things. For instance, during CES, Danny was hit by a bot that kept on disliking all his videos. He had just massive amount of dislikes, even though there were no, normally when you have a video that's really disliked, the comments reflect it. People would complain. No, everyone was like, oh, great video. I love this. And he was just getting massive amount of dislike. Then he finally got an email from somebody saying that I'm the one who sent this bot to you and I don't care. And he was trying to reach out to YouTube to say, hey, can you help with this?
Silence.
Nope. Nothing we can do.
And
it's our platform, but we can't do anything about that.
And that's the kind of thing that you want to have, especially if you know that, okay, if I'm at a certain tier level, I have this, perks, these I've gotten these benefits because I've worked hard to get here. That actually, like you said, it gives incentives for people to say, I will make the platform better. I will make better content. YouTube has always talked about better content. They want that. For you to make better content, you have to incentivize better content, especially when these people are making it to you for free. You don't pay them out of your pocket. You pay them out of advertising revenue. So basically, you're not spending your own money for this. It's basically outside revenue coming in. So you might as well incentivize it in ways that they allow people to do better, move forward, and people who make crappy content will have to change because it's not incentivized. It's not part of what, the system is built on. But right now, the system is built on whatever the algorithm feels like. And what is that algorithm? It's whatever Google wants. Premier. That's
lots of Logan Paul.
So yeah. Well, anyway, guys, thank you very much. It's been a very spirited first show. We've covered quite a few topics, all the way from CES, Intel, down to YouTube. I want to thank Saf for joining us. Thank you for having
Thanks for having me.
The show. Yeah, thank you very much. And now we are the part of the channel where we talk about what we have currently on the channel and what we can expect next week. So Saf, could you tell us what you have on your channel right now and what people can also expect from you in the next week?
So I've just uploaded a couple of days ago a roundup of the S9 rumors. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. I've got one thing coming next week, which I can't talk about, but look out for it. That's all I can say.
All right. All right. Okay. Next up, Mr. Warren Bowman. What do you have on the channel? What can we expect?
Stuff and
and stuff. All right. All right.
Keeping tradition alive.
Okay. Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell, since I have to pronounce your whole name. Since you said,
let me just jump in, okay, because I got a couple things going on. So one, I did finally produce my full recap. I did CES all from a phone, and it worked out way better than I thought it would. LG V30, totally a champ. Power director, editing, rendering, cutting video, shooting video, and
V-Moto mic. Got to pitch that in there. That mic was on point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the V-Moto mic came in clutch a bunch of times. I need to find a better way to mount it though, because I look like one of my producers at Newegg was like, he looks like a lost pilot. I needed to find something else, but the V-Moto boom mic is phenomenal in those kinds of situations, so you can catch those. This morning I just posted my review of one of the things I was walking around with Vegas. This is a keychain breathalyzer from Backtrack. It's incredible what kind of stigma people will put on someone who's blowing into a breathalyzer in public. And it's a fun little lifestyle way to kind of keep track of your drinking in a more fitness tracker kind of way. Thursday, we brought back Newegg Now. So we had a whole bunch of really cool deals. One of them was crazy. Like we sold a 50-inch Samsung QLED for like $350. So that was a fun way to come back to Newegg Now. I actually maybe bought it, and it's maybe already mounted up in my living room right now.
Maybe, as in it is.
Maybe. I totally did. And what was hilarious was I was getting texts during the show from Marie, and she was like, "Are we jumping on this? We need a new TV. Is this the one we're getting?" Like, I'm trying to do a live show right now. And so lastly, I just want to throw this out there. Two things that I want to throw out there. One, in reply to all of these problems with YouTube monetization, I'm plugging our new subreddit. Our glowing rectangles has tripled in size since the YouTube rules were announced. We're trying to find some way of creating a platform to help smaller content creators promote. And obviously we need to do that outside of YouTube. So Reddit is one opportunity for people to join the discussion, join the conversation, and help promote other people while they also promote themselves. Our glowing rectangles, check that out. And lastly, I will be launching a Patreon in about 2 weeks. And so I'm reaching out to all of my friends, all of the community, for suggestions on perks, on goals. I want to bring back a podcast where we get into more Joe Rogan style conversations with other tech producers. I want to find ways that we can get into deeper dives on the actual tech in phone cameras, pro cameras, production grade stuff. And then also make it a series where, as I learn how to produce better content, that I am sharing everything that I learn with the people who are interested in also producing that too. So I'm humbly asking for any suggestions that people have in trying to do this right, because I really want it to be a collaborative environment, and I really want it to be outreach for the community so we can all get better at this stuff at the same time as we're making sure that, you know, I'm providing a good value for subscribers' money. So be on the lookout for that. I'll be promoting it pretty heavily over the next week just to get that feedback, and hopefully we can make something really cool.
Cool. All right. On our end, we have all our CES stuff. Definitely go and check out the Colonel's video. He's back in full force. He was out at CES.
He attacked Saf.
He harassed Saf a little bit. He was also he also met this one of the guys from DJI who spent some time in Nigeria, one of the countries close to Singala. So he had his fun around the show. And then next week I have a few videos, but tomorrow I'm dropping my best TVs of CES. The bunch of TVs that were out there. One I didn't mention that I actually found really interesting was Sony's 8K, 85-inch 8K LED with 10,000 nits HDR brightness. This thing looks lifelike. Even though they said it was just a demo, it literally looked, you know how you were talking about the window, Warren?
Yeah.
That is literally what this thing looked like. It was very surreal. So check that video out. It'll be up tomorrow, sometime tomorrow morning or so. But again, thank you everyone for joining us in chat. Everyone for chiming in, from Gadgets Boy to Roland Collins, also to Mr. J. Williams, everyone. I'm not just picking people's names, but I just want to thank everyone for joining in. The show will continue next week, again at 12 noon. I want to thank Saf again. You can check him out on YouTube. His channel is SuperSaf TV. If you don't know it, then something is wrong with you. I apologize.
Well, Google's algorithm could possibly prevent you from knowing that.
I'll insult you, then apologize.
Yeah, I know, right? That was the Colonel. That was the Colonel that came out, not me. That was. You can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all SuperSaf or SuperSaf TV, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken, on all those channels. And then you can check out Mr. Warren Bowman at BW1.com. His channel is BW1.com on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is on BW1.com. And then Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell. Yes, you can find him on online, his YouTube channel, Some Gadget Guy, as well as also on Twitter, Instagram. It is Some Gadget Guy, as well as on Facebook. And he also is on Newegg now. He hosts the show every Thursday, so you can check him out there. And also check out his subreddit. What's the subreddit name again?
Our Glowing Rectangles.
All right. And of course, Mr. Black Iron _ Sam. He sometimes makes videos on the Booredatwork Network, so you'll see them from time to time if they happen. And
only on special occasions.
You can follow him on Twitter. It is Black Iron _ and myself. It's Booredatwork on YouTube, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all Booredatwork. So thank you very much. Join us next week and have a good weekend.
Bam.